The starship descended slowly through Virelia's shimmering atmosphere, cutting through clouds of violet mist. Commander Elias Kane stood at the edge of the ramp, his boots touching the soft, glowing ground. He had seen strange planets before, but Virelia was different. Its forests floated in mid-air, crystals jutted from the mountains like frozen lightning, and rivers ran with water that glowed like liquid silver. Elias adjusted his jacket and looked around. The mission had seemed simple at first: observe, report, and leave. But something about this world made his chest tighten. Perhaps it was the way the light danced across everything, or perhaps it was something he had not yet seen. And then he saw her, the Princess of Virelia. Liara stood at the edge of a lake that reflected the twin moons. Her hair flowed like liquid starlight, and her skin shimmered faintly, catching the light in ways humans could not understand. Her eyes were violet, deep and endless, like a universe contained in a single gaze. "You are human," she said softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. Yet it reached him clearly. "I am," Elias replied, unsure why his heart seemed to pound louder than it ever had before. "And you are the princess of this world." Liara tilted her head, curiosity lighting her delicate features.
"I have read about your kind, seen your images in the holograms."
"But seeing you, it is different. You feel real." Elias felt a strange warmth at her words. He had never thought of himself as special. He was just a human soldier, trained to follow orders and complete missions. And yet this alien princess looked at him as though he were extraordinary. For hours they walked by the glowing lake. Liara asked about Earth, about the oceans, the forests, the simple sunlight he often took for granted. Elias asked about Virelia, its people, and its strange, beautiful landscapes. Despite the difference in their worlds, there was an understanding growing between them. Subtle but undeniable. As the first moon climbed higher, Elias felt something he had never expected. A bond forming, fragile yet powerful. Liara's laughter, light and musical, echoed in the crystal forests. Her gestures were delicate yet full of life. She did not seem concerned with royal duties or protocol. She simply existed, and somehow she made the human world feel a part of her. "I am glad you came here," she whispered, stepping closer to him. Her eyes searched his face, full of questions and quiet longing. "Humans, you see the world differently." "You see people differently." Elias swallowed hard. He did not know what to say. How could he explain the pull he felt towards someone from another galaxy? How could he tell her that a single glance from her had unsettled his carefully ordered life? I'm glad too," he finally said. "I did not expect this. I did not expect to feel anything." Liara smiled faintly, a soft curve of her lips. "Perhaps it is not the planet or the mission or even me. Perhaps it is simply you." Elias felt his chest tighten. He wanted to tell her everything. The way her presence made his heart race, the way her curiosity touched something deep inside him. But the words got stuck. He could only nod, and in that nod, Liara seemed to understand more than words could ever express. As the ship's engines hummed faintly in the distance, signaling the need for his return to the base, Elias lingered. He did not want to leave, not now. Not when he had just found something he did not know he was missing. A connection, fragile and new, yet powerful enough to pull him across galaxies. And Liara, the alien princess, seemed to feel it too. Her gaze held his longer than necessary, and for the first time she looked less like a distant ruler and more like someone who could touch his world forever. The mission had begun as a duty, but by the time Elias left that night, it had become something else entirely. A story had begun. A story of two souls from different stars drawn together by something neither could ignore. Days passed, and Elias found himself drawn back to Virelia again and again. Each time he stepped onto the glowing ground, his thoughts seemed lighter, his heart fuller. The mission still demanded observation and reports, but those tasks felt smaller now. Compared to the moments he shared with Liara, they began to meet in secret, far from the eyes of the royal court and the council. The crystal forests became their sanctuary, and the silver rivers their quiet path. Liara would glide along the edge of the water, her laughter sparkling like sunlight over the waves, and Elias would follow, amazed at how natural it felt to be beside her. "I do not understand humans completely," Liara confessed one evening, sitting with her legs crossed on a floating rock. Her eyes reflected the twin moons, bright and soft. "Your world is strange, yet I feel something when I am with you, something I do not feel with my own people. Elias sat beside her, careful not to break the fragile peace around them. I don't understand your world completely either, he said. But somehow when I am with you, I feel like I belong, like I am supposed to be here in this moment. Liara tilted her head, studying him. Belonging, that is a powerful thing. I have been raised to rule, to follow duty. But my heart is mine, and it tells me that with you I am free. Elias reached for her hand, hesitant, as if touching her could shatter the delicate magic surrounding them. When their fingers brushed, warmth spread through him, and he realized that he had never felt anything like this in his life. Not in training, not in battle, not even on Earth. This was different. This was connection. They shared stories of their worlds. Liara spoke of Virelia's skies, which changed color depending on emotion, of forests that grew in impossible shapes, and of ancient rituals that humans could never imagine. Elias told her about Earth, about oceans and deserts, about cities full of light and darkness, about music that could make hearts ache with joy. You make me want to see more, Liara said softly, leaning closer. Not just your world, but your mind, your heart, humans. You are extraordinary in ways I cannot explain. Elias felt his chest tighten. He had faced battles, commanded soldiers, and survived situations that would have broken others. And yet none of it mattered compared to this. The way this alien princess saw him, not as a visitor, not as a curiosity, but as someone worthy of her time, her trust, and perhaps her heart. One evening, under the pale light of the twin moons, Liara spoke words that would stay with him forever. Elias, tell me, human. Tell me what I must do to marry you. Elias froze, his heart hammering in his chest. He had expected curiosity, questions, laughter, maybe even quiet confessions, but not this. He looked into her eyes and saw sincerity, hope, and a bravery that dwarfed anything he had ever known. You mean that? He asked, barely able to breathe. I do, Liara said, her voice trembling slightly. I do not care about the rules, the council, or the expectations of my people. I only care about this, about us. Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. Love across galaxies, across cultures, across impossible divides. It was frightening. And yet he realized that fear did not matter. What mattered was the bond forming between them, fragile but unbreakable. I don't know if I am worthy, he admitted, his voice low. But I know I cannot walk away. Not from you. Not from this. Liara reached for him, placing her hand over his heart. You already are worthy, human. You simply do not know it yet. That night, Elias left the crystal forest with a new understanding. The mission no longer mattered. Politics no longer mattered. What mattered was the bond between him and the alien princess, a bond that defied galaxies, rules, and expectations. And in that bond, he felt something he had never felt before: hope. Word of Elias and Liara's secret meetings began to spread, faster than either of them could have imagined. The Council of Virelia, powerful and unyielding, had learned of their bond. Whispers turned into murmurs, murmurs into angry voices demanding answers. Elias felt it before he even saw them. A chill in the air, a tension that made the crystal forest feel smaller, the glowing rivers darker. Liara, however, remained calm, though he could see the flicker of worry in her violet eyes. They will not understand, she said quietly as they met one evening by the Silver Lake. Humans are unknown to them. To them you are a threat, an outsider, but she paused, looking at him with unwavering determination. I choose you. The council summoned them both. Elias had expected hostility, but he was not prepared for the storm he faced. Dozens of elders, dressed in ceremonial robes, glared at him with suspicion and anger. Liara stood beside him, her posture regal, her hand brushing against his in quiet solidarity. You dare defy tradition? One elder demanded, his voice sharp like breaking crystal. You cannot marry a human. The princess is heir to the throne. This is impossible. Liara stepped forward, her voice clear and steady, yet carrying the emotion of her conviction. I do not care what you declare. I do not care for power, for politics, for tradition. I only care for truth, for my heart, and my heart has chosen him. The room erupted in chaos. Some elders shouted, some gestured angrily, and some simply shook airheads in disbelief. Elias felt the weight of centuries of expectation pressing down on him. He was a human, a visitor, a stranger in a world that had never seen his kind, not meant to be part of their story. And yet, Here he was, standing beside a princess who had chosen him over everything. Elias began, but his voice faltered. He had trained to lead soldiers into battle, faced impossible odds, but this was different. This was a fight for love, for choice, for freedom. I do not seek power. I do not seek wealth. I only seek to stand with her, to protect her, to honor her heart. That is all I wish. Liara's hand tightened around his. You see, Counsel? She said, her voice trembling slightly but full of courage. You see him as a human, but he is more than that. He is brave, honest, and kind. He sees me not as a princess, not as a duty, but as a person. That is why I choose him. The council fell silent, but the murmurs did not end. Many were unwilling to accept a human in the royal fold. Others feared the reaction of the citizens who would see a princess break tradition so boldly. Elias looked at Liara, unsure how they could survive this storm together, yet unwilling to step back. He spoke again, stronger this time. I will face your fears, your doubts, your trials. I will do whatever it takes to prove that I am worthy of her trust and love. Not for power, not for honor, only for her. Liara's eyes glimmered with unshed tears. And I will stand by you, she whispered. No matter what they demand, no matter the cost. I am yours. Are you willing to fight for us, human? Elias looked at her, feeling the depth of their connection stronger than any fear or doubt. I am willing. I will face whatever comes as long as I face it with you. That moment marked the beginning of a new battle. Not with weapons, not with armies, but with hearts, courage, and conviction. Together they would fight not for conquest, but for love, an impossible love across worlds, across rules, across centuries of expectation, and in that silent, tense moment under the shimmering glow of Virelia's moons, they both knew something profound. No council, no law, no tradition could change what their hearts had decided. The challenge had begun. The council did not relent. If anything, they became stricter, determined to test Elias before granting even the slightest acceptance. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a man challenging centuries of tradition, and the eyes of an entire world watched him. Elias spent long hours learning Virelian history, language, and customs. He memorized rituals older than most human civilizations. He practiced the art of diplomacy with patience and humility, listening to elders who questioned his every word, every gesture. It was exhausting, and yet every time he faltered, he thought of Liara standing beside him, and he found the strength to continue. Liara was patient, guiding him in ways that were gentle but firm. You do not have to be perfect, she told him one evening, as they walked through a forest of floating crystals. You only have to be sincere. Truth will shine through even when others cannot see it. Elias nodded, but his heart still wavered. He wondered if sincerity would truly be enough against centuries of expectation. He wondered if a human could ever truly belong in a world like hers. Yet every time he looked at her, he knew he could not turn away. She was no longer a princess in a distant kingdom. She was his hope, his anchor, his reason to fight. The first trial came in the form of the Council of Elders. They asked him to speak of human history, to demonstrate understanding of Virelian ethics, and to show how he would care for their princess. His hand shook as he began, but with every word he found confidence in truth. He spoke not of strategy, not of conquest, not of power, but of empathy, of courage, of love. You speak honestly, one elder said slowly, his tone softening. You do not hide behind arrogance or pride. That is rare even among our own people. Elias bowed deeply. I do not wish to hide, he said. I only wish to honor her, to stand beside her as a partner, and to protect her heart as fiercely as my own. Liara watched silently, pride swelling in her chest. She saw the way he struggled and persevered, saw the way he faced every obstacle with humility and courage. She realized that his humanity, his compassion, his curiosity, his resilience was exactly what made him extraordinary, but not everyone was convinced. Some council members whispered doubts. A human cannot understand Virelia, they said. He will never survive the responsibilities that come with marrying the princess. Elias heard them, and it hurt. But he did not falter. Instead, he took a deep breath and looked at Liara, who nodded slightly, silently urging him forward. Then let me prove it, he said. Not with words, but with actions. Not because I must, but because I choose to. Because I choose her. Over the next weeks, he undertook tasks that tested mind, heart, and endurance. He navigated the forests of floating crystal without getting lost. He negotiated peace among rival Varelian factions. He learned to read the moods of the citizens, to act with kindness and wisdom even when others doubted him. Through every trial, Liara remained his quiet strength. She did not solve his problems, but she reminded him why he fought, why he endured, and why love could overcome fear. She whispered once during a difficult challenge, "I do not care if they accept you. I only care that I do." Her words echoed in his mind long after the trials ended. They carried him through moments of doubt, moments of fear, moments when the council seemed impossible to sway. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Elias began to believe, not only in himself, but in the bond they shared, a bond stronger than any law, stronger than any tradition, stronger than the distance between their worlds. By the end of the trials, Elias had proven more than skill or knowledge. He had proven devotion, patience, and heart. He had shown a strength that was not measured in power or force, but in courage and love. And in doing so, he had changed more than his own fate. He had begun to change Varelia itself. Just when it seemed that Elias and Liara's bond had begun to withstand the council's trials, disaster struck. A rogue faction within Varelia's nobles saw the princess's defiance as weakness, and they moved to capture her. Their plan was simple: force her into a marriage that would solidify their power and crush any hope of her choosing Elias. Elias learned of the threat late one night, just as the twin moons reflected on the silver rivers. His heart pounded not with fear for himself, but with terror at the thought of Liara in danger. Without hesitation, he leapt into action, rallying allies and navigating the crystalline forest that had once seemed enchanting, but now felt perilous. Liara, unaware of the exact danger, felt a strange tension in the air. Her instincts, sharpened by years of training and responsibility, told her something was wrong. She followed the subtle signs, the rustle of leaves that should have been still, the unnatural silence among the glowing trees, and soon realized the danger closing in. The rogue nobles ambushed her near the edge of a floating forest, their weapons glinting in the pale moonlight. Panic surged through her, but she did not scream. She had trained for this, yet her heart yearned for one thing alone: Elias. "I won't let them take you." His voice called through the trees, strong and unwavering. He burst into the clearing, moving with speed and precision that belied his human frame. The nobles hesitated, surprised that a human had penetrated their trap so boldly. Liara's heart leapt as Elias reached her side. He grabbed her hand, holding it tightly. "Stay close to me," he said, his eyes locked on the threat around them. "I won't let anyone harm you." The chase was relentless. They ran through forests where crystals hummed with energy, leapt over rivers of glowing water, and ducked under low-hanging stalactites of light. Every step was dangerous, every turn a gamble. Yet Elias's resolve never wavered, and Liara clung to him, trusting him with every heartbeat. At one point, a crystal shard fell dangerously close, and Liara froze. Elias pushed her aside, taking the blow himself. Pain shot through his arm, but he refused to slow down. He gritted his teeth, focused only on getting her to safety. Finally, they reached a hidden valley, bathed in the soft glow of bioluminescent flora. Elias collapsed for a moment, holding her close. "You're safe now," he whispered, his voice rough with effort but full of relief. Liara pressed her forehead to his, tears glistening in her violet eyes. "You risked everything for me." "Human," she said softly. I cannot imagine a life without you." Elias shook his head, brushing the tears from her cheeks. "I don't care about danger, Polly. Ticks or what anyone else thinks. You are worth every risk, every fight, every scar I might carry. I will always protect you, Liara." In that moment, standing together in the valley of glowing light, the bond between them deepened. It was no longer just curiosity, no longer just affection. It was trust, courage, and a shared promise. They had faced the threat together, and their hearts had survived. Yet even as relief washed over them, Elias knew that the council's anger would grow stronger. They had defied tradition, faced danger, and proven courage, but the path ahead was still uncertain. Still, for the first time, Elias felt that nothing could truly break what they had built together. Liara whispered once more, her voice trembling but firm. "We will face them together, human. Whatever comes, I am yours." Elias smiled, exhausted but resolute. And I am yours. Always. The crisis had tested them, but it had also shown them the strength of their love. In that glowing valley under the light of twin moons, the impossible seemed a little more possible, and the human heart had proven itself worthy of an alien princess. The council's chambers were silent, but the tension in the air was thick enough to touch. Elias and Liara stood side by side on the highest spire of Virelia, overlooking the glowing forests and silver rivers below. The twin moons reflected in Liara's violet eyes, making her look more radiant than any human or Virelian jewel could. Liara turned to Elias, her voice barely above a whisper, but full of determination. I do not care about the council. I do not care about tradition or politics. I only care about you. I only care about us. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words settle over him like a warm cloak. He had faced impossible odds, learned foreign customs, and risked everything for her. But now it was time to speak the truth he had carried in his heart since the day he first saw her by the lake. You have already done everything necessary, he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil of emotions inside him. You have faced your fears, defied every rule, and chosen me. That is all that matters. I marry you because you are you. Because I see your heart, and it is stronger than any law, any tradition, any doubt. Liara's eyes filled with tears, shimmering like twin stars in the Virelian night. You would stand by me, human? Even if they hate us, even if they try to tear us apart? Elias stepped closer, taking both her hands in his. I will face everything with you. Together we are stronger than fear. Together we can face any storm, any council, any world that thinks we do not belong. I do not just love you, Liara. I choose you every day with every part of me. For a moment silence fell, broken only by the gentle hum of the crystals around them. The council could argue, the nobles could whisper, the citizens could doubt, but in that moment none of it mattered. What mattered was truth. What mattered was love. What mattered was courage. Liara pressed her forehead to his, inhaling the warmth and the steady rhythm of his heart. Then nothing can stop us, she whispered, her voice firm despite the tears sliding down her cheeks. No tradition, no rule, no fear. I am yours and you are mine. Elias smiled, a rare, full smile that lit up his entire face. Forever, he said simply. They embraced, holding on to each other as though the world itself might try to tear them apart. And in that embrace they drew strength, not from power or authority, but from the undeniable bond between two souls willing to defy everything for each other. The council's objections would come. Elias knew that. There would be tests, whispers, and resistance. But the declaration had been made. Love had been spoken aloud in a way that could not be denied. And for the first time, Virelia's twin moons shone down not only on a princess and a human, but on a new possibility. A future built on courage, trust in the bravery of the human heart. Liara pulled back slightly, looking into his eyes with a quiet smile. You are more than I ever imagined, human, she said. Stronger than any warrior, braver than any council. And yet you are gentle, kind, and true. That is why I choose you now and always. Elias held her hands tighter, feeling the electricity of her words in every fiber of his being. And that is why I choose you, he replied. Not because it is easy, not because it is safe, but because it is right. And nothing, no fear, no rule, no world can ever change that. The wind blew softly through the spire, carrying their words across the glowing forests. Somewhere in the distance, the citizens of Virelia paused in quiet awe, sensing a change in their world. The impossible union of a human and the alien princess had been declared, and with it came hope, courage, and the undeniable proof that love could transcend worlds. And in that moment, beneath the twin moons, Elias and Liara knew one truth above all. Together, they could face anything. Together, they had already begun to change the universe. The council had finally gathered again, this time in the grand hall of Virelia's palace. Tension filled the air, heavy enough to make the crystal chandeliers hum with unease. But Elias and Liara entered together, hand in hand, their steps steady, their resolve unshakable. Citizens of Virelia watched from balconies and halls, whispers rippling like wind through the glowing columns. Some were shocked, some curious, some quietly hopeful. The impossible had been declared, but whether it would be accepted remained uncertain. Liara stepped forward, her voice clear and unwavering. I am the princess of Virelia, but I am also my own person. I choose Elias Kane, a human not because of power or convenience, but because he has proven himself in ways that matter most. In courage, in truth, and in heart, the council murmured, voices rising in confusion and anger, but the citizens began to cheer. They had seen Elias risk his life, learn their ways, and stand beside their princess with unwavering dedication. Humanity had shown them that bravery, empathy, and love were not limited by species. Elias stepped forward, his voice strong. I do not ask for your approval, elders, or your rules. I ask only that you see what I see. Liara is extraordinary. She has chosen me, and I choose her. Together we can protect this world, honor its people, and face any challenge that comes. That is my promise. For a long moment silence fell. Then slowly one elder stood. Then another. The tension cracked like ice under pressure. And the council, seeing the citizens' support and the courage of a human heart, relented. Liara's eyes shone with tears, and she turned to Elias. You did it, she whispered. You made them see what I always knew. He smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. We did it together. You gave me the strength. You gave me a reason to fight. That is why we won. The palace erupted in quiet celebration. Citizens gathered to witness the historic moment. It was more than a marriage of two hearts. It was a triumph of understanding, courage, and humanity. The impossible had been made real because a human dared to stand for love. That evening, beneath the twin moons and the glittering forests, Liara and Elias were united in a simple but profound ceremony. There were no grand gestures, no excessive pomp, only two souls standing together, surrounded by those who now accepted them, and by the light of a world they both cherished. Liara placed her hand on Elias's chest, feeling his steady heartbeat. I am yours, human, she said, voice soft but certain. And you are mine. Elias took her hands in his, holding them tightly. Forever, he replied. No matter the stars, no matter the worlds, no matter the rules, we are together. In that moment, Virelia seemed to hold its breath. Even the forests of floating crystals, the glowing rivers, and the silver mountains seemed to shine brighter, as if celebrating a new beginning. Humanity had left its mark, not through force, but through courage, compassion, and love, and across the planet and perhaps across galaxies. One truth became clear. Humans could inspire loyalty, bravery, and hope even in the most unlikely of worlds. One heart willing to fight for what is right could change not only a life but an entire civilization. Elias and Liara stood together on the palace balcony, looking out at the glowing forests. The night was quiet yet full of promise. Their journey had been perilous, full of challenges and doubt, but the human heart had triumphed. Liara leaned her head against his shoulder. This is only the beginning, she whispered. Elias wrapped his arm around her, feeling the warmth of her presence, the certainty of their bond. Then let's face it together, he said, always together. And under the twin moons of Virelia, two hearts, one human, one alien, beat as one. The universe had witnessed a simple truth. Courage, love, and humanity could overcome even the greatest of divides.